Nobody tells you this about money, and that's exactly why you're struggling. Not because you're lazy. Not because you don't want more. And definitely not because you're not trying hard enough. The real reason is much deeper and much harder to accept. Because the truth is, the system you've been following was never designed to make you win. It was designed to make you function. To keep you busy. To keep you productive, but not free. From a young age, you were taught a very simple formula. Study hard, get good grades, find a stable job, work consistently, be responsible, and eventually, you'll be financially okay. That's the promise. That's what everyone repeats. That's what feels safe. But here's the part nobody tells you. That path doesn't lead to freedom. It leads to survival. And there is a big difference between the two. Survival means you're always maintaining, always catching up, always managing problems instead of building solutions. It means you're working just enough to stay afloat, but never enough to actually get ahead. And if you're honest with yourself, you've felt this. You wake up early, you go to work, you stay busy, you complete your tasks, you do what you're supposed to do, and still, at the end of the month, nothing changes. Bills come in. Expenses rise. Savings barely move. And that feeling starts creeping in. Why am I still here? Why does it feel like I'm running but not moving? That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And patterns don't come from nowhere. They come from systems. Here's the truth most people never understand. Money is not just about how hard you work. It's about how your life is structured. If your structure is broken, your effort won't save you. You can work harder, you can work longer, you can sacrifice more, but if the system you're operating in doesn't allow growth, you will stay stuck. That's why so many people feel exhausted but not successful, busy but not progressing, because they're putting energy into a system that keeps them in the same place. And the worst part is, they don't even realize it. They think the solution is simple. They think, I just need more money. They believe that if they earned more, everything would change. But that's where the trap is. Because more money doesn't fix a broken system, it exposes it. If your habits don't change, your mindset doesn't change, and your decisions don't change, then more money will just flow through the same patterns, only faster. That's why you see people who earn more but still feel broke, still stressed, still stuck. Because income is not the problem, structure is. Let me ask you something. If your income doubled tomorrow, would your life actually improve? Or would your expenses simply rise with it? Most people don't upgrade their mindset, they upgrade their lifestyle. They earn more and spend more. They become more comfortable, but not more free. And that's not progress. That's an illusion. And illusions are dangerous because they make you feel like you're moving forward when you're actually standing still. This is what nobody tells you about money. It doesn't reward effort. It rewards awareness. It rewards structure. It rewards discipline. Once you understand that money is not just something you earn, but something you manage, something you direct, something you control, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I make more? And you start asking, what am I doing with what I already have? And that question alone has the power to transform your life. Because it forces you to look at your habits, your spending, your time, and your decisions. And for most people, that's uncomfortable. It means facing reality. It means admitting that maybe the problem isn't external, maybe it's internal. And that realization is not easy, but it's powerful. Because if the problem is internal, then the solution is also internal. And that means you have control. You can change your habits. You can improve your thinking. You can build new systems. You can become more intentional. But here's the truth, responsibility is not comfortable. It doesn't feel good because it removes excuses. It removes blame. It removes the idea that someone or something else is going to fix your life. And that's scary because now it's on you. Your habits, your discipline, your decisions, your future. And most people avoid that, not because they can't handle it, but because it requires real change. Not temporary motivation, not short bursts of effort, but consistent, uncomfortable, daily discipline. And discipline is not exciting. It's not glamorous. It's not something you feel like doing every day. It's repetitive. It's uncomfortable. It's doing the same things over and over again, even when you don't feel like it. But that's the price. That's the part nobody wants to accept. And that's also the part that changes everything. Because when you build discipline, you build control. And when you have control, you stop reacting to life, and you start designing it. That is the real shift. From surviving to building. From reacting to creating. From being stuck to moving forward. And it doesn't happen overnight. It starts small. One decision at a time. Choosing to be aware. Choosing to be intentional. Choosing to do what's necessary, even when it's uncomfortable. And over time, those small decisions compound. They build momentum. They reshape your identity. Because you're no longer the person who reacts, you become the person who acts. And that changes everything. So if you're listening to this right now, and something inside you is telling you that this is real, don't ignore it. Don't go back to autopilot. Don't tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. Start today. Start small, but start. Because the longer you wait, the longer you stay in the same cycle. And the truth is, no one is coming to break it for you. That's your responsibility. But the good news is, you can. And this is just the beginning. Because in the next part, we're going to break down the habits that are silently keeping you broke without you even realizing it. And once you see them, you won't be able to ignore them again. So if you're serious about changing your life, make sure you're ready for what's next. Because this isn't about motivation. This is about transformation. If you're always struggling with money, it's not just about how much you earn. It's about what you repeatedly do without even thinking. Because the truth is, your financial situation is not shaped by one big decision. It's shaped by hundreds of small habits that you repeat every single day. And the most dangerous part is that most of these habits feel normal. They don't feel like mistakes. They don't feel like they're hurting you. But over time, they quietly build the life you're currently living. And that's why this is so important. Because if you don't identify these habits, you will keep repeating them. And if you keep repeating them, nothing changes. You might feel motivated for a few days. You might try to improve for a short period of time. But eventually, you'll fall back into your default patterns. And those patterns will always bring you back to the same financial reality. One of the most common habits that keeps people broke is unconscious spending. This is when you spend money without intention, without awareness, without asking yourself if it actually adds value to your life. It's the small things, the daily expenses, the quick decisions that feel harmless in the moment. Buying food because it's easier than cooking. Paying for subscriptions you don't even use. Making impulse purchases just because something caught your attention. None of these decisions feel like they matter, but together, they create a pattern of financial leakage. And here's the problem. When you don't track your money, you lose control of it. You don't know where it's going, and because you don't know where it's going, you can't fix it. It's like trying to fill a bucket full of holes without realizing that the water keeps leaking out. You keep pouring more in, but nothing stays. Another habit that silently keeps people broke is prioritizing comfort over growth. This one is subtle because it doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a reward. After a long day, you want to relax. You want to escape. You want something easy. And there's nothing wrong with rest. But the problem is when comfort becomes your default. When every free moment is spent on entertainment, distraction, or avoidance, you are not building anything. You are maintaining your current life. And maintenance does not create progress. Growth requires effort. It requires discomfort. It requires you to invest time into things that don't feel immediately rewarding. And this is where most people get stuck. Because they say they want a different life, but their habits are designed to keep them exactly where they are. They choose what feels good now, over what would benefit them later. And over time, those choices compound. Another major habit that holds people back is avoiding financial awareness. A lot of people don't know how much they spend, how much they save, or how much they waste. They don't track anything. They don't plan anything. They just react. Money comes in, money goes out. And as long as there's no system, there's no control. And without control, there is no direction. Because money, like anything else, needs structure. It needs intention. It needs a plan. And if you don't create one, your habits will create one for you, and that plan will not lead to growth. Then there's the habit of delaying action. Saying, "I'll start later. I'll fix it next month. I'll get serious when I have more money." And that mindset is one of the biggest traps. Because later becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And next month becomes next year. And before you realize it, nothing has changed. Because change doesn't come from thinking about it. It comes from doing something about it. And most people stay stuck not because they don't know what to do, but because they keep delaying it. Another habit that keeps people broke is focusing only on earning and ignoring growth. They think the solution is just to work more, earn more, push harder. But if all your energy goes into maintaining your current income, you never create new opportunities. You stay in survival mode. And survival mode is dangerous because it keeps you busy, but it doesn't move you forward. You're always working, always doing something, always tired, but not progressing, because you're not building anything that can grow beyond your time. And this is where leverage comes in, something most people ignore. Leverage is what allows your effort to multiply. It's what allows you to grow without constantly trading your time. It could be a skill, a business, content, investments, something that can scale. But building leverage requires time, focus, and discipline. And most people never get there because they're too busy staying afloat. And then there's one of the most dangerous habits of all, inconsistency. Starting something and not finishing it. Getting motivated and then losing focus. Trying for a few days and then quitting. This pattern destroys progress. Because success is not built on intensity, it's built on consistency. Doing something once doesn't change your life. Doing something repeatedly does. And that's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who move forward. One group relies on motivation. The other relies on discipline. And discipline is what allows you to act, even when you don't feel like it. Even when it's boring. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when no one is watching. And that's where real change happens. Because the habits you build in silence create the results you see later. So if you want to change your financial situation, you don't start by chasing more money. You start by changing your habits. You start by becoming more aware. You start by taking control of the small decisions you make every day. Because those decisions are not small. They are shaping your life. They are determining your future. And the moment you take responsibility for that, everything changes. You stop reacting. You start building. You stop guessing. You start directing. And little by little, you move forward. And in the next session, we're going to go even deeper. Because habits are only one part of the problem. The real root is your mindset. The way you think about money, success, and yourself. And once you understand that, you'll see why most people never escape the cycle. At this point, you've already seen something important. It's not just your income. It's not just your habits. There's something deeper, something that controls everything else. And that is your mindset. Because the way you think about money will always determine how you earn it, how you manage it, and ultimately, whether you keep it or lose it. Most people don't realize this, but their financial life is not limited by opportunity. It's limited by perception. They don't act based on what's possible. They act based on what they believe is possible for them. And that belief, whether you're aware of it or not, is shaping every decision you make. If deep down you believe that money is hard to get, you will act cautiously. You will hesitate. You will avoid risks. You will settle for less. And even when opportunities appear, you might ignore them, not because they aren't real, but because they don't align with how you see yourself. That's the silent trap. Your identity creates your behavior, and your behavior creates your results. If your identity is someone who struggles financially, everything you do will reinforce that reality. You will overthink decisions. You will delay action. You will play small. You will stay in your comfort zone, even if that comfort is keeping you broke. And the worst part is, it feels normal. It doesn't feel like self-sabotage. It feels like being realistic. It feels like being careful. It feels like this is just how life is. But it's not. It's a mental pattern. And that pattern is what's holding you back. A lot of people also carry hidden beliefs about money that quietly control their actions. Some believe money is difficult to earn. Others associate it with stress, pressure, or responsibility they don't feel ready to handle. So even if they say they want more money, their behavior doesn't match that desire. Because internally, they're not prepared for it. And that creates a contradiction. You say you want growth, but you act in a way that keeps you safe. You say you want more, but you avoid what it takes to get there. And over time, that contradiction keeps you stuck. Another mindset that keeps people trapped is focusing on short-term comfort instead of long-term vision. Most people make decisions based on how they feel in the moment, not based on where they want to go. If something feels uncomfortable, they avoid it. If something feels difficult, they delay it. If something requires effort, they replace it with something easier. And this becomes a pattern. A pattern of choosing what feels good now instead of what builds something later. And the problem is, your future is built on what you choose repeatedly. Not once. Not occasionally. But consistently. And if your default is comfort, your result will be stagnation. This is why discipline is so important. Because discipline allows you to act beyond your emotions. It allows you to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. And that is what separates people who stay stuck from people who move forward. Another mindset that holds people back is the belief that they need to feel ready before they start. They think they need clarity, confidence, and certainty before taking action. But the truth is, clarity comes from action. Confidence comes from repetition. And certainty comes after you've already started. If you wait until you feel ready, you will wait forever. Because readiness is not a feeling. It's a decision. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to move. Because hesitation builds doubt. And doubt kills momentum. And without momentum, nothing changes. Let's be honest. You already know more than enough to improve your situation. You know you should be more focused. You know you should manage your money better. You know you should stop wasting time. You know you should build something. The problem is not knowledge. The problem is execution. And execution is controlled by mindset. Because if your mindset is weak, your actions will be inconsistent. And if your actions are inconsistent, your results will always stay the same. That's why real change doesn't start with money. It starts with how you think. It starts with how you see yourself. It starts with the standards you set for your life. Because once you change that, everything else begins to shift. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, and you start acting with intention. You begin to build instead of react. You begin to move forward instead of staying stuck. And that's where things start to change. Because now, you're no longer a victim of your circumstances. You become the creator of your direction. And that changes everything. But this is not about becoming perfect. It's not about changing overnight. It's about becoming aware and choosing differently. One decision at a time. One action at a time. One step at a time. Because over time, those small changes create a new identity. And that new identity creates a new life. So if you've made it this far, if something in this message resonated with you, if you felt that discomfort, that realization, that moment where things started to click, don't ignore it. Because this is where change begins. Not when you feel motivated, but when you become aware. And what you do next will define everything. You can go back to your old habits. You can return to autopilot. You can repeat the same patterns that have kept you stuck. Or you can decide that this is the moment where things start to change. Not perfectly. Not instantly. But intentionally. And if you're serious about that, if you truly want to understand money, build discipline, and develop a stronger mindset, then this is just the beginning. Because everything we talk about here is designed for one purpose. To help you break the cycle. To help you think differently. To help you build something real. So if you're ready for that, make sure you subscribe to the channel Wealth Decoded. Turn on notifications. Stay consistent. And commit to the process. Because your life doesn't change in one moment. It changes in the decisions you make after this one. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it.